What's your name?
Evan Grolman.
So I see you're with the Biden for president here. You got the hat.
Biden all the way.
Talk to me about why are you into Biden? Obviously he's been in politics a long time, and there's a lot of other candidates. What sets him apart for you?
Well, I think the fact that he has been in politics for a long time is a plus for me, because we've seen the consequences of what happens when you get an outsider. A lot of people for a long time have wanted an outsider. They got their wish, and I don't think the expectations have been met. I mean, I certainly didn't want an outsider. I wanted someone who knew what they're doing. And besides that, I think Biden recognizes that there is a lot of fear in this country from both sides of the political spectrum. I might live in New Jersey, but I'm feeling fear. Someone in West Virginia, a coal miner who might lose their health insurance from the Affordable Care Act being repealed, might feel fear. So we are all different, but we are all feeling one thing, and that is fear. And I think Biden recognizes that, and I think he wants to do something about it.
You know, you mentioned that he's been in politics a lot, and because of that, he obviously has a long record. Mm-hmm. And one thing that people are very concerned about, particularly progressives, is his cozying up to Wall Street. You know, mm-hmm. He's been doing a lot of events with Wall Street. Obviously, since basically Occupy Wall Street, there's been animosity towards the 1% elite. Mm-hmm. He's basically, I get alerts all the time. Another fundraiser. He told Wall Street executives at a fundraiser, your standard of living won't change. You don't find a contradiction when he's talking about the middle class and helping the middle class, but he's also telling Wall Street, like, you'll be fine under me, everything's good.
Well, I don't think you necessarily have to change the standard of living for Wall Street in order to improve the middle class. I don't think that's a problem. Sure, you can tax the rich more, but I mean, when you consider how much money they have, you could tax them at, I don't even know what percentage, but you could tax them at a certain percent, and it probably won't even change any part of their lifestyle. So maybe that's what Biden was referring to.
Well, it's not just the taxes. The federal government gives Wall Street banks a lot of subsidies and mm-hmm. tax cuts and
sure.
goodies. The other thing is, he's talked a lot about kind of making America again. That's kind of one of his mottos, but it doesn't, economically, Obamacare, there's still 27 million people uninsured, mm-hmm. a lot more people underinsured.
Right.
You have over half the country now supports Medicare for all, mm-hmm. but he says that wouldn't work. Why do you support Obamacare over a universal program like other countries?
I think Obamacare was a very good start. There were definitely some flaws with the Affordable Care Act. They probably did make some concessions to the insurance companies. I think we can agree with that. But I think that Obamacare, for me personally, and for a lot of other people, has saved us from going without insurance and getting the necessary doctor's visits or medications that some people may need. My philosophy is not to let perfect be the enemy of good. And I think that while a universal healthcare program sounds really good, I have yet to hear one candidate, with the exception of maybe Elizabeth Warren, give a detail as to how they will do that. For instance, when Bernie Sanders was on the debate stage and was asked, how will you implement this Medicare for All system, he said it's going to happen when the general public stands up to the health insurance companies, and to me that was unacceptable, because what are we hiring someone for president of the United States for if they're not going to do something about it? He basically said it's your problem. You're going to have to do that on your own.
No, he said his plan says middle class taxes will go up about 3 or 4%, mm-hmm. but you save overall about $3,000 to $4,000.
That may be true, but I need details about that, and I feel that Elizabeth Warren.
Have you ever looked at his website?
I have looked at his website. I've heard the tax on Wall Street plan. I've heard that. I don't understand how he's going to. I just feel like there's not a lot of substance there. I want to hear more about how he's going to do it, how he's going to convince the Congress of raising taxes on middle-class citizens, because there are a lot of people on both sides of the political spectrum, Democrats and Republicans, who are against raising taxes.
Right, but what I'm asking you is
their constituents.
You're kind of, the corporate media kind of spins it that way. Oh, raising taxes on the middle class, but overall, like if what the taxes increases are right here on the left side. So let's say you pay an extra $2,000-3,000, but you save $6,000 to $7,000 overall. Mm-hmm. Your expenses are going down.
And listen, that was a deal breaker for a lot of people. People were saying that they weren't going to vote for Bernie Sanders should he become the nominee. My plan is to
What was the deal breaker?
That he said he would raise taxes on middle class people.
But you understand what I'm saying.
His plan would
actually decrease.
Well, it's going to decrease the amount of money that people pay towards health insurance. It might technically raise.
Oh, no. Overall, if you have healthcare in one bucket and taxes in the other,
your taxes might go up, but the amount of that
your
you're paying
taxes
towards
are going to go up less than the amount you will save in healthcare. So
No, I get that.
Your overall costs go down.
And that was not a deal breaker for me. The problem is that I don't think that
But why would that be a deal breaker if you're saving money overall?
it wasn't a deal breaker for me. That's what I said. It wasn't a deal breaker. It was a deal breaker for a lot of other people. I don't think he's going to get the votes in Congress to be able to. I don't think he's going to be able to convince Congress of that. A lot of Democrats have said that they are against raising taxes on middle-class citizens. Bernie doesn't seem to be the most persuasive person to me, so I'm not sure how he's going to convince Congress of
You
that.
don't think he's persuasive? He just got Jeff Bezos to raise the minimum wage. He's the richest man in the world.
Well, he's not very persuasive because when you look at his record in the Senate, you see that he hasn't gotten a whole lot done in the last 10 years. I think the three bills that he started proposing, I think it was three, had to do with renaming post offices.
No,
I don't think that
that's
he's
incorrect.
got. How many was it then?
He actually, him and John McCain got the largest veterans health care bill passed.
And I give him credit for that, but he still hasn't done.
He also, in Obamacare, he actually was responsible, him and James Clyburn actually together got $9 billion for expanded community centers. He also just passed the first time ever passing the War Powers Act in American history. That was to stop U.S. involvement
Well, all
in
you have to
Saudi
do is
Arabia.
go on the GovTrack website and look at Bernie Sanders' record for the past 10 years, and you'll see that there's only been 3 bills that he's proposed, or around 3. 3 to 5 is what the number is.
I just named 3 for you that he's...
It's 3 to 5, essentially, is what I'm saying.
Can
I
you
thought it was
name,
3.
can you name the bills that Biden passed in the 90s and 00s?
Sure, the Violence Against Women Act was one of the things, I believe,
That was inside the crime bill, which many people
which
are
I
criticizing.
supported. I wasn't alive back then, but I supported the crime bill. Yes, there were mistakes made with the crime bill, but I believe that the assault weapons ban, I believe that the community policing was good. I believe that
But let me ask you, and I'm not trying to be adversarial, I'm just trying to understand
course.
the Biden voter. So when you say there were some mistakes, you do understand that millions of young black men were put in jail for that, for nonviolent offenses,
most of
which
the people,
he has never apologized
Most
for.
of the people who were incarcerated for too long were incarcerated at the state level, and since 1973, you can disagree, but it's
No,
true.
but the crime bill...
But let me finish. Since 1973, the incarceration rate federally and statewide was going up by over 250%. The crime bill was a drop in the bucket, and there was a decrease in crime after the crime bill was passed. There were mistakes made. There might have been some flaws with people getting incarcerated for drug usage, but I think the vast majority of that bill was a very good thing.
You're aware with the state, you were mentioning most of it happened on the state level. A huge aspect of the crime bill was actually incentivizing states to create more prisons and jail more people. So when you say it was on the state level, that was because in the crime bill it
But
incentivized.
I think it showed results, though, and I don't think that
But
everyone
what were the results if you're jailing
Low.
millions of black people
Well,
for
this is what I
nonviolent
object
offenses?
with progressivism. It's always against. They're always against the incarceration, and it's a blanket statement, which I don't believe. There were some people who did, in my opinion, need to be incarcerated, whether they were
Do you think
incarcerated.
black men should be in jail for
That-
life?
you're twisting my words, and if
You
you're
just
going
said
to keep.
incarceration.
There were some people who needed to be incarcerated, and by the way, it wasn't just black men who were incarcerated, it was people of all races. Did it disproportionately affect one group? Possibly. But there were people who did commit crimes who I believe needed to pay for those crimes. I am not saying that someone should be incarcerated simply because of their race, and I don't appreciate you taking my words out of context.
I'm not saying that at all. What I was saying is the majority of the people jailed under the crime bill were African Americans for nonviolent crimes, so cocaine, dealing,
Well, what do
things
you
like
consider
that.
a nonviolent
And part of
crime?
that was, I don't think selling drugs is a
I
violent
think selling
crime.
drugs is a violent crime.
Oh, okay.
I think it is. It's like
interesting.
it's like selling a gun to someone you know is suicidal. There's no such thing as responsible drug usage. There really isn't.
So 3 strikes, you agreed with that? 3 strikes.
I think it was good for the times. I think maybe now it needs some reforming, but I think it needed to happen when it happened because we did see a decrease in murder. We did see a decrease in gun violence. The assault weapons ban was excellent. So I think that, yeah, the crime bill was good.
And last question, obviously this focus was foreign policy, so, President Obama with Biden obviously ended Iraq. We still have residual troops there, but he voted for the Iraq War. He obviously, as far as I know, hasn't said anything about us kind of engineering a coup in Venezuela. Obama did a lot of the droning, which has created a lot more animosity. What did you take out of this speech? What do you think his foreign policy is?
Well, I'm more of a domestic policy guy, but what I can say about the foreign policy is that I think that Iraq War probably was a mistake. I think the information that people were getting from the Bush administration was flawed, and I think a lot of it were lies, probably by Dick Cheney. I don't blame Biden for voting for the war in Iraq, but if someone were to say now that the war in Iraq wasn't a mistake, like, say, Jeb Bush in 2016, I think they're full of it.
Why are they full of it?
Because it was a mistake. I mean, there were no weapons of mass destruction there.
No, I know that, but I mean, there were people, not just Bernie, but some other people who kind of saw that. So you don't think there's anything to be said for having the right judgment, like in the situation?
Well, at the time, I think that the right judgment, I think when the President of the United States, because it's easy to sit here now in 2019 and say, oh, that was a mistake. I think back then, when the President of the United States, which has almost always been a respectable position until the guy who we have right now, I think people took the President seriously when they said we need to go into war. And I think that a lot of people were very concerned about the war on terror. I think people were shaken up from 9/11. And I think that Joe Biden, representing a coastal state, which is not too far from Philadelphia and New York, probably had a lot of concerns about that.
And if he became the nominee, who would be your pick for vice president?
Ooh, that's a good question. I like Amy Klobuchar.
So you're kind of in the middle of the road guy.
I'm a conservative Democrat. I think that Amy Klobuchar works very well. A lot of her Republican colleagues have said very good things about her, that she gets things done, that she's very reasonable.
I think a lot of progressives would argue with you, what's the point of getting things done if it's basically middle of the road stuff that doesn't really help the masses?
Well, I think I think the Obama administration did help the masses. I'm far better off because of the Obama administration today. A lot of progressives don't consider Obama progressive, yet 10 years ago Obama was considered progressive. So, things change.
Well, the income inequality that's really strangling this country kept on going up under Obama.
Yes, but the
he didn't
unemployment
jail
rate,
any bankers after destroying the global...
Well, he was trying to fix the economy. I mean, it's like your house is on fire. Would you rather the firefighters put out the house or chase the arsonist? I mean,
you don't think
he had to...
You don't think him getting a record amount of donations from Wall Street had anything to do with him not jailing anyone?
I think he had to fix the economy, and I think that he was in a very tough position, and he did a lot during his first term. His second term was somewhat disappointing, but I think that his second term has sort of led to the economic success that Trump is trying to take credit for now.
And lastly, sorry, I said lastly
Sure,
10 times.
Sure.
What's Biden's signature policy? We know Bernie is Medicare for all. What is Biden's signature policy or message? What's his campaign about?
Return to normalcy, expanding on the Affordable Care Act, getting us back into a position in the world where we are respected and where our allies don't hate us.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.